Dark Knights of Steel, issue 12. Tom Taylor writing with Yasmin Putri on the art. So, this finally wraps up this book. And much like Deceased did back in the day, this ends with the implication there might be a future story to tell in this world. We'll see if that happens. Well, you know, with all the delays this had, I don't know if it's been as successful as Deceased. But it does have a sort of kind of hopeful ending that hopes for more story as well. So we found out Amanda Waller is working with the White Martians, and she's got a plan to like deal with the fire that the good guys have got around the palace. Turns out the plan is to use Captain Cold to take away the fire.
And it's cold wand instead of a cold gun. That's pretty cool.
Makes a lot of sense. But it turns out the good guys have got a plan. They've formed a plan where they basically lure all the White Martians to a volcano, and then Black Lightning and some of the others use their powers to evoke an eruption, and they let the lava do the talking.
Well, not only that, but our heroes, who are one half Kryptonian, one full Kryptonian, and a goddess, get bathed in lava, which creates a makeshift armor so that the White Martians can't do much.
Yes, the Trinity become coated in fire, effectively.
Right. And so what I love about this is that it's an idea that apparently came from Bobo, right, Detective Chimp, and Constantine. But as they're talking about it, Bobo looks at Constantine and goes, I think it's crazy enough to work. He goes, well, I hope so, because if it doesn't, I'll just say that I got it from the monkey. And I just thought that that's the typical Tom Taylor sense of humor that I've come to expect in these books. Because for the rest, up until it's revealed, I'm like, well, what's their plan? Like, what's so crazy that only, you know, an ape can think of? And it turns out coating your heroes in lava to fight White Martians is the one part of the story, the one part that is crazy enough. My main problem with this, I think this is a really good issue. The delay killed me. I forgot where we were in the story. I think I forgot about Waller betraying them and being like on quote unquote humanity side.
I mean, that one's not too bad because it's really easy to get once you like one look at the first page and you get it. But the delays in general have really hurt the pacing of this book because like it got to a point where I just forgot it was still going because it had been like 3 months since the last issue. I don't know, that was like between 7 and 8 or something like that, but it like that should have been finished like 6 months ago, or probably even more than that, to be honest. And it really has hurt. It has meant that the art's been a lot more consistent, which is good. Don't get me wrong. But it has made the single issue reading a little bit tough at times. So of course, the reason why it seems like there's more planned is because Alfred, who's also Martian Manhunter in this world, basically figures out that Waller is behind a lot of shady stuff and knows what she's done. And Waller basically has fire defenses for Martians because she's not an idiot, mainly because she deals with White Martians. So she actually kills Alfred, and Batman flies for the first time with his Kryptonian powers as he hears the yell and flies off to get. So we actually see Alfred burn alive, and he turns to dust like a vampire from the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Alfred in this universe can't even catch a break. He's got to die here too.
So
that said, it wasn't really.
I just want to say once again, Taylor is making us try to like hurt with with Alfred's death. Like he's using that again.
Because what I wanted to say about that was, as they get ready to go out to battle, right? He says that I can't go with you, Master Bruce, right? And he goes, "Would you be bothered if I took the form of Alfred?" And Bruce is kind of like, "Well, that was already your form." And he goes, "Oh, 'cause it's the one that I'm most comfortable in now." And it's this really nice moment of like, you know, this is who I've been for years, and you know, I'm not thinking that Taylor's going to take him away from us again. Right? I'm thinking like, oh, he'll be, because he goes, I can't be with you because of whatever the plan is. And then that's when it, you know, as they're going to rain fire down upon the Martians, it makes sense. But yeah, Waller has other ideas and takes Alfred from us. And it's just this, Bruce says it in his head, he can hear the scream.
Yeah, and then Waller, right after when Bruce shows up, says, oh, Deadshot was working with the bad guys, and she kills Deadshot with a sword and says, yeah, Deadshot betrayed us. She did this. He did this. So now Waller's like, lying and kept her position with the court. And so this is one of these things that makes you feel like, oh, there's a sequel plan to this, because there's no way you don't have her get her comeuppance if you're not planning to do more, unless you're planning to do more story with her. So that feels like a sequel setup to me, as does, of course, what they do at the end here, where they unite the kingdoms of the Amazons, the Lightnings, and the Elves. The Elves. And they call it the League. And that's the end of the book, is that they've effectively formed the Royal Justice League. So
also, like, we get some Lois and Clark stuff where, she goes over and is like, she kind of playfully is like, aren't you ever going to tell people how you got out of the Themyscira, right? So it also seeds a relationship for Lois and Clark, going forward. And the same with Bruce and Clark, right? Where he's like, well, this should be your throne, right? Like, you're the one that's F. He goes, the throne's not for me.
Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, it does seem to always do well in the top 10. So maybe maybe this has sold well enough that it'll get a sequel.
Yeah, but there's a lot of fun stuff in here to lead that. Even if we never get a sequel, right? I could see Taylor revisiting it someday down the line in like a one shot or something.
Honestly, I'm expecting a sequel announcement in less than 6 months. That is what I expect. And
he's got to get through Beast World first, and then we'll hear about Dark Knights.
Yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed the series. I think this is a solid finale. I think it's had a lot of what Deceased had, which is the twists and reveals that kind of make sense in a weird sort of like, mishmash way. Yeah. But I do think it does feel like a lot like it is just a second Deceased in a lot of ways, by just, remixing what characters are with who and how they sort of come to be together and things like that. So it is still very enjoyable, but I do think that it is kind of the same trick as Deceased, so I would say that it is, it's the art's better by and large, but I would say that it is the lesser Deceased. Still good, but not as must-read, I would say, is where I'd land, I think.
Agreed. I'd agreed on that too, because, but yeah, no, Putri's art though here, all the fantasy type stuff, the Trinity, on fire, such a cool visual.
That said, given everything I did just say there, I will acknowledge though that it probably reads quite well in one continuous read. If you read this as just a 12-issue book, in a trade or whatever, I think it probably reads quite well and at a nice pace. I think the delays between issues really did hurt this across the last couple of years, because it feels like it started 2 years ago. That's how long it feels like it's been going.
Yeah, well, I'm sure too, if you're reading it at the right pace, right? When you start to get the vibes that that Kara's it's not Kara, whatever this Clark's sister or Cal's sister,
Zala, I think.
Zala, there we go. That Zala's not Zala, like there's something's not adding up, and that Clark's not Clark, right? I'm sure those turns happen, and you start to be able to piece together the Martian aspect a little bit better because you don't have those big gaps in reading. But yeah, it's still very enjoyable. I still like a lot of the characterization.
I was not far off. The first issue came out in November 2021.
Shh.
It's almost 2 years.
Almost.
Just 2 more months and it'd have been exactly 2 years. So that's a lot of delays, because this should have been done in 12 months. And okay, fair enough. You wanted the delay in the middle to give the artist, because they had that one shot to give Putri some time. But even with that, like, it should have been not much more than a year. So it took a long time to get through this.
Yes.
So, but I suspect there'll be a sequel before too long, because it feels like it was a lot of stuff at the end to set one up. Between the Clark and Lois tease, between Waller still being this villain sort of in the inside, out for herself, and then the formation of the League, it feels like it's just ripe for more. And they even reference like other parts of the world here as well. Yeah. I don't have it open anymore, but they talk about the frozen land somewhere. Yeah. They talk about, I think it sounds like they're talking about Atlantis at one point.
The Sea Kingdom.
So it feels like there's some seeds there for future stories for sure.
If there's ever a need for a Momoa-esque Aquaman showing up, it's in a book like this. I'm just gonna put that out there.
There's never a need for a Momoa Aquaman.
I'm just saying, I kind of like Aquabro a little bit, just enough to have him in a comic.
No, I need to never be reminded of anything in those movies ever again. Thank you very much.
Oh man.
Anyway, what are you rating Dark Knights of Steel?
I'm gonna give this an 8.
Yeah, I think an 8's fair. Like, honestly, like, it's a very pleasant miniseries. It absolutely is. It just kind of feels stilted, and it feels like maybe it came too soon, because I think Deceased, because Deceased, the final like part of Deceased was still happening whilst this was. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the last part of Deceased didn't start until after this started, given that was 8 issues.
Yeah. I think we talked about that when we were wrapping up Deceased.
I think maybe some time between Deceased and this would have probably been good, because that would have felt like a spiritual successor instead of like being kind of at the same time, and kind of weird because of that.